like this one. About 5 out of every 10 NFL players has a college degree. What are your thoughts on declaring for the NFL before you graduate?
I'll go first. Because that's one reason Sean stayed back and stayed for this year, for this COVID season. But he didn't graduate. You know, he went to college to get that degree. You know, that degree doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be rich. That degree means that you did all the checks in the block to get a certain level of education. You know, a certain level of education and a certain level to get certain jobs. Certain jobs you just can't get because when you look at the resume at the bottom it says you must have a degree. You know, so like it just shows that you completed all that stuff. So it's very, very important.
Okay, so what I'll say is, and I have one young man that has already completed his degree, but I want to encourage some parents too, though, depending on where your kid is, like that's what if they're aiming for their goal. So our boys, myself and Randy, they went to school to play football because they love football. The degree to me is a bonus. It's a bonus that some people feel like is a must-have, but I don't necessarily feel like it's a must-have because I've seen all too many kids go back and get their degree. But the objective, especially for a football athlete, if he aspires to play at that next level and say he is a junior and he can go and he's projected to go first or second or whatever, or to go at all, like, you know, I think a lot of people underestimate how these athletes really impact the lives of their families and things like that. I always told my son, I already have a house, you ain't got to buy me no house, this, that, and the other, but I'm the exception. There are so many families out here that really are impoverished. And for that young man to be able to go and start his career, his professional career early, he can go back and get his degree. So don't be discouraged. I don't think it's a necessity. And I actually used to feel like that. But my husband said, well, babe, when you think about it, this is what they're going for. They're going to get recognized. They're going to get drafted. And so if they can do that in 3 years, I say go for it. I mean, because again, don't forget you can come back and get your degree. There's a young man at Notre Dame went last year, same class as my son, but he went out last year, went to the Giants. He was a 4th rounder, but he graduated this year with my son then because he came back and finished up his 16 credits or however many he needed, and he's good to go. So it's the end if you have to get out.
But going to the NFL is a pipe dream. You cannot sell. You can't sell a kid. Going to the NFL is a pipe dream. Everybody thinks you're going to make it in the NFL. So, for instance, my school, Trinity, is a powerhouse in football in Jacksonville, Florida, right? To this day, right now, we had like 7 or 8 people 4 years ago go to the NFL between the last couple of years or whatever. And it's only one person on the active roster that made it. Like, it's hard. So, like, education is more it's something that's in front of your face that you can get. So, I just hate the fact that we sell like you just go to the NFL, like it's just easy. Everybody can just go. No, everybody don't go. Most people.
But Randy, like, so we talked about, though, the importance of education. So, see, you can't just get into a school when you're uneducated as well. So if you don't have the right grades, if you're not on that path, my thing is when you get to college, these kids have so many resources now in college. They have mandatory study hall. They have tutors at their disposal, especially as athletes. So there's no reason for them not to get educated. What I'm not saying, so I hear what you're saying as far as, yeah, it is a pipe dream. But if they're on the right track education-wise, academically anyway, I don't see any reason why no kid shouldn't get their degree, especially programs like Power 5 programs that go year-round. Like, my son was ready to graduate last year. He could have graduated last year.
And so, here's my thing, though. Here's my thing. Let me jump in real quick. Here's the thing, though. Not everybody's going to a Power 5 in the NFL. In the NFL, you're made up almost 300-plus players are kids that were undrafted from God knows where, 66 players from the Division II. I mean, 11 from the D3 level, 1 from NAIA, 1 from JUCO. There's kids out there that don't have that ability. And let me tell you something, an NFL span, a career span is 3 years and about 6 months. That's a span of an NFL player. God forbid one of your children getting an injury, or they have nothing to fall back on if they don't complete that college degree. The college degree, listen, it's not like what it used to be. It doesn't carry the stature that it used to. But at the end of the day, they will ask you when you apply for a job if they have a bachelor's degree or if they have an associate's degree or if you have a master's. My thing to you is, if you're that good of an athlete, be that good of a student. Go out there and in 3 years, finish your degree. So then you can leave early. Now, if you do that, then you have my back in 100%. But if you're slacking off in basket weaving, because we know some of the schools and classes that these kids take, if you're slacking off in basket weaving to where you're not pushing through for that, then you know what? At the end of the day, you don't want it bad enough. If you really want the NFL bad enough, then you'll work hard and be done with it. And you can do it. My nephew's done it in 3 years, and he's a soccer player. You can do it. If you want it bad enough, and if you're that good, then go finish it and be done with it both at the same time.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes, sir.
Don't knock basket weaving.
I'm just going to say that this conversation exposes two schools of thought, because there are people that go to school for football, but there are people that go to school that understand that they're leveraging football to get an education. And if you get to the next level, or not even just football, any sport, if you get to the next level, it's a nice to have. So it goes to how people actually motivate and push their child, because most programs are all year round. They have the voluntary mandatory summer practices, and if you do it right, if you're actively involved, if you're motivating your child, in my opinion, they should have a degree in 3 years. And they should have the first year paid of a master's program, because they still have a year of eligibility. So again, great conversation, but it just exposes among parents, there are two separate and very distinct schools of thought on what academics and athletics will do for a family.
But let me add this one thing. I gotta add this. Parents, these schools will give you, like they set up your track for your education for the graduating 4 years. They will scratch that thing out so they can have the control over your kids, especially that last year when they want you to come back for one more year. And you need to come back and get that degree. Why they do that? They would give him classes and spread his classes out so he can't graduate. So as a parent, you have to go in there and talk to that advisor. No, he needs to take this class now. He needs to take this class now. They'll use this on you. They'll tell you, well, he doesn't need to take this chemistry class now while football season's going on, because it's too hard. Parents, you got to go in there and actually say, no, he's going to take these classes now that he needs to put him on track to graduate, to get your bang for the buck. You got to do this.
I'm just saying, because they will get you. Look at North Carolina, right this last 5 years, had one of their best basketball players sue the school because the degree program that they created for basketball players had no academic value. It's a business, parents, and you need to make sure that the very least they can give you is a fully funded college degree. That's the bare minimum you should be getting.
And don't take basket weaving. It's a horrible class.
So
I don't understand how, because and again, I know we're the exception a lot of times, but my son was, self-motivated. Like when they get to that point, I feel like, if you have really been, and I know my younger son's at HBCU, so I know mamas that be checking their emails and doing this, trying to make sure that they're doing the right thing. That's not me, because again, I ain't raised no little punks and I ain't raised no boys. Like, you're young men now, so you got to deal with it. And I know that that's not everybody's path, but you need to come see me, Coach Pride. I get you right as a parent, because you are, as a parent, don't send them babies off and then have them calling back home talking about, Mama, what I'm supposed to take. No.
Next question, but I got a comment on that. But next question. 2020 is a rough season. Numerous players have complaints about coaches using the N-word. Should a player be allowed to use the N-word in practice when the coaches can't? Thoughts?
I'll start it off.
All right, good.
Why do we even have to use the word? It's a slap in the face to even use the word, period. Whether it's a player, a coach, a state person in the stands, it's derogatory, it's incompetency. There's no reason to say it. There's no reason to even have to say the word to get it out. You can call people other things. You can slap them. I mean, there's so many things that you can pick on somebody about, but that's the word that they come to. It just doesn't make sense to me. My children are Hispanic. I hear people use the word spick all the time and different things like that. It's a slap in my face, and it's a slap in their face, and they didn't do anything to deserve it. So it upsets me when I hear them words. when I hear even people just using it, whether it's recreational use or whatever, there's no need for it. It's hard though to cut it out because it's been going on for so long. And the thing is you have some people that are ingraining that at home, and it comes from the home, and it does. And whether people want to admit it or not, if I'm talking like that in my house, my kids are going to pick that up. And then you're going to have kids that are doing it in school. And it's unfortunate, but the word shouldn't even be used, period, by anybody. They shouldn't even make it a word. Don't even honor the word. It's horrible.
Snaps. 2 snaps.
Yeah. My thing is, I think that the younger generation, and probably I did too when I was a kid, we turn negative connotations and negative words into something that we could use. So like, we've always done that, but I just hate when I see kids and teenagers and college students they like cuss in front of their parents, and they use stuff like that, words like that in front of their parents. Like, so when those when those kids go to college, they use those type of words in front of the coaches. I feel that, like, just like a job in a business, you got to be professional. You know, they cuss and stuff, but I think the N-word is drawing the line. But the fact that I feel like the fact that the kids say the N-word and the coaches can't, I think that's bad. I think nobody should say it in that setting, and you can do what you want to do once you're out of that setting, just like you would do at a regular job. That's what I think.
Oh man, well, so I use the word, and you know, because I come from an environment, again, it's not justifiable. Like, I don't want to use the word, but like when I'm with my people and this, that, and the other, I use the word. I've used the word around my kids. I'm not sure if the kids now have like bruh and other stuff that they use. I'm not sure. They could, but all I'll say, again, so I use the word, so I can't judge, right? But if the kids are using it amongst themselves, I do feel like there's a separation. I think the coach has to be an example, because the coaches are over the kids. So I definitely don't think it's ever okay for a coach to use it. I don't care if it's a black coach or what. I don't think the coaches should be using it. If the kids are using it amongst themselves, maybe the coach puts in a rule or something, hey, we're not using the N-word, it's not tolerated here or whatever, but I'm not going to say, I'm not going to condemn them, because a lot of times it has to do with environment. It really does have to do with environment. If you grew up using it, it's just like Randy said about cussing. If you grew up, I also grew up with a potty mouth. I've gotten so much better at that part. Because I've gotten so much better. Y'all pray for me. But I've gotten so, vulgarity, as opposed to just, because like I said, when I go around my people, it's like this N-word here, but it's, again, a term of endearment. It's definitely not ER. So, that's my piece. I got to be transparent with you guys. I can't lie.
I think that's insight into how we grew up. So when I grew up, my grandma, there were certain things ladies did and certain things ladies didn't. So the words that you say, and we couldn't say it. We couldn't say that, and we couldn't curse either. So like when I thought I was grown, that's when you're away from your people. Like, I'm just going to talk about my family. When you're away from your people and you thought you were grown, that's when you use profanity, and that's when you use the N-word. But once I grew up, like once I became an adult, and I was like, no, we're not going to do this, because I truly understood. So my family's from Mississippi. I don't need to say more about race relations. We're from Mississippi. But it really, I understood that my older relatives that were alive, that hurt them. Just like I would never call any of my older uncles a boy, because that's it's hurtful. And so me personally, that's not a word that I use, and I've encouraged my children not to use it. But it's like you said, Angela, when they're with their friends, sometimes they will. And that leads to confusion, because people who think that they're cool with you, and I don't know where our kids got this from, but I've had little people say, oh, racism is over, and they just think, oh, they've said that racism is over, and words don't matter, and I just heard it in a song and it's okay. Then you got little Johnny from down the street getting punched in his mouth because he said the word, because he said it around you. We actually had this happen at our school. there was a young man who thought, you know, racism is over and it's okay. And a girl who was white, she ended up calling my daughter the N-word because she thought that it was cool. In our family, oh no, you won't talk to us like that. And so it ended up being a big thing at school. I think it leads to confusion, and it's because these kids are confused. Clearly, hopefully they know that racism isn't over. But in our family, we don't use the word, but I can honestly say, insight into the Black world, when we want to be rebellious, when we think we're grown, we use words that our adults tell us not to use.
It's just like sir, ma'am. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these new age parents don't raise their kids to say sir, ma'am. Now I'd be like, wow, that's crazy. But what they need to do is just like the military. You know, when you come into boot camp, I mean, I was in the Navy, and when you come into boot camp, you know, I never heard other racist words about different nationalities and people like that. Like, I never heard these words before I got to boot camp. So what they did in boot camp, they broke everybody down, everybody running, everybody doing push-ups, and set a standard. And once you set that standard, that's how you kind of move forward with it.